Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening, or good morning or afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this. Welcome to the 41st of hopefully many episodes of bardadvice. My name is Charles. Some of you may know me as Chaz, or Yazik, or the DM, or the Bard, however you may know me. And on this show, bardadvice, we do our best to answer any questions that you might have regarding D&D or anything surrounding its orbit, or just life in general, I guess. At the top of the show, we like to remind everyone to please send your questions, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques, etc. to bardadvice@gmail.com. All the questions are always appreciated. If you've not sent one in, send one in. If you've sent one in before, send in another. bardadvice@gmail.com. We also like to remind everyone if you'd like to get some merchandise, you can do so over at manshorts.com. And if you want to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik. We do not have an art corner this week. However, we do have a sponsor for today's episode, and they're actually our sponsor for the week, so we'll see a spot for them on the video on Sunday as well. But let's get into what that is about, which is our sponsor this week, which is Ryoko's Guide to the Yokai Realms. So, check this thing out. Ryoko's Guide to the Yokai Realms is a massive 350-plus page D&D expansion inspired by mythology, folklore, and pop culture. It introduces an evolving combat system specifically for fighting against gargantuan monsters, as well as full party combo attacks, new classes, new races, over 100 new magic items with variants. You can live out your avatar fantasy with the new Element Bender class, or spend some time training and exploring with an adorable familiar that you can grow and bond with your character. Either way, Ryoko's Guide to the Yokai Realms is sure to enhance your gaming experience. It's available on Kickstarter, and they have some really epic tier rewards. So if you'd like to back the project, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of this video on YouTube, or go to the Kickstarter and check it out. It's Ryoko's Guide to the Yokai Realms, and you can tell them that Man Short sent you, or in your case, you can tell them that the Bard sent you. One of the reasons that I'm excited about this sponsor this week is that it is spearheaded this project by Will from D&D Shorts, a buddy of ours, Will Earl from D&D Shorts. And also I've been informed that they have a great team of artists and writers, but that also includes Shinoya Frank, who's worked on all kinds of great stuff, including Pokemon and Death Note. So it looks really, really cool. And if you're interested in backing that, they have a lot of cool, like I said, they have a lot of cool tier rewards, including like this really massive dragon mini that's pretty dope. So if you're interested in helping back that project, please click the link in the description or just go check it out on Kickstarter and get that thing going. So I think that's everything. We do also at the top like to thank all of our members, our patrons, and any kind of super chatters. Obviously, our subscribers and viewers. Please remind you to like this video, to comment, share, rate on your respective platforms, etc. This evening, we do have a little bit to get into. While I didn't have an art corner, we did do our sponsor, and I did want to also mention briefly, for anybody that cares about it in the basketball world, I certainly think it's pretty insane that Damian Lillard has been traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't know how Milwaukee managed to get this deal done while retaining Chris Middleton. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I feel like it's going to be Bucks in 6 next year, because that is a frightening combination. So, we have 6 questions and a follow-up this evening, and at the end, we'll have some chat. There's some things that I wanted to talk about, but let's go into question number 1 this week, which is from Stacy. And Stacy asks, "Hi GM Chaz, in the earliest AD&D, the mechanics for multiclassing were very unforgiving. As a result, multiclassers were very squishy and incurred huge penalties for dipping a toe back into the old class. A bard, though, had to multiclass as a fighter / rogue / spellcaster, and had to start fresh with each new class as above. The ideal would be to play those classes to the maximum level of each before declaring yourself a bard. Reaching the highest level of each / all of the initial classes allowed your bard to truly and finally multiclass. When AD&D dropped the A for advanced and started adding new additions, they nerfed bards enough for me to stop playing them. Oh well. Okay. Is the bard class fun again? Well, first of all, thank you for the question, Stacy. You've probably noticed that I took a little bit of liberties in restructuring the question. Not everything that you sent was included. You sent quite the email, and I don't say that critically. I'm long-winded myself. That's why I have an hour-long podcast every week. So I hope that I was able to get the crux of your question in there as to essentially saying that, like, you know, the old bard, it was kind of expected. It was the jack of all trades concept of being a little bit good at a little bit of everything was kind of not only built into the class of bard originally, but it was required. That's how it worked. That was the whole idea of a bard, is that, well, the bard is a little bit of everything. So I can see where you're coming from when you look at like the 3rd edition or like the 3.5 edition bard, and probably even the 4th one. I don't know that bard really got viable in the way that you're referring to until 5e. So I think that the short answer to your question is, are bards fun again, is yes. Maybe not in the way that you think, but I'll say it like this. So the 5e bard is a lot closer to what you're used to with AD&D stuff than would be so yes, it would be a lot closer to the AD&D bard than the 3.5 bard, for example. So like, let's look at the 3.5 bard, right? Incredibly squishy, pretty much designed for support. You could make the argument that like mid to late level you can stand alone, but 3.5 bards were kind of support. It was hard to... Now, I'm sure that there are variants with, you know, because 3.5 is very supplement rich, so I'm sure that there's all kinds of different options and subclasses you can go. But when you're talking about the base bard in 3.5, pretty squishy. Not very valuable, but for being support. And again, you know, I've talked about before, and we'll talk about later, like when you're a bard in a big party, it's way fun because you can just focus on the support. But it sounds to me like you are looking for more of what the original bard was set out to be. And I think that 5e did that certainly better than 3.5. So in 5e, and River's saying bard is squishy in 5e, but it has so much tech available to it. Yeah. So that's the great thing about the 5e bard, is that with the colleges, they almost act like subclasses. And so you can sort of specialize, not to the full extent of, you know, taking full-on levels in those classes. But like, say, for example, you wanted to play a bard that was more combat-centric, you can go College of Swords. And that's kind of built for that. Whereas, like, say you want to build a bard that's more spell-heavy, you can go College of Lore. So, and beyond just the base colleges, there's all kinds of colleges from supplemental material as well as just homebrew stuff. So the short answer is that yes, the bard is fun again. It's still squishy. It's still not, you're still not going to be able to have like the full benefit of what it would be to train as like a fighter or, you know, maybe dodge stuff from rogue, but it's way more reasonable to be able to accomplish different things with the bard. You probably won't be able to accomplish everything that you want to, because you do kind of have to pick one lane. But I guess you could do a little bit of everything. How does that work, chat, with colleges? Can you have more than one college? Can you add colleges as you go? Or are you just kind of like locked into your lane when you pick it? Turtle bard ain't squishy. Yeah, dude. Next London trip. Next London trip. We'll make a trip there. Oh, they're talking about something else. London, Jags playing London this weekend. Only one subclass per class. Yeah. So see, that's it comes with an addendum, your answer, in that overall you can get a lot closer than you used to be able to. How's that? You have a better chance now than ever before at playing a bard in the same way or same vein that you have in the past. And I totally see where you're coming from with the because I don't know much about like the old school bard, but from what you've described and what I've read and seen before, like, is a way different thing. And I think that they've gotten closer back to that with 5e. But again, you know, it's still just one of several classes. So I don't know that I don't know that Wizards thought that much about it. But yeah, I think that's a good answer. I think you should play a bard, run a 5e bard, and just see. And you don't even have to you don't even have to play. Just go build one. Just go on just find like a character builder and just build like a level 10 bard and see what you have, or rather what your options are. Or even just as something as like reading through the schools, through the colleges might make your decision for you. If you actually get in there and see like, okay, this is the College of Whispers, etc., then you can get kind of an idea of what you can do. That might make your decision for you. You might see it and be like, oh, well, this is dumb. It's not what I wanted. So that'd be my recommendation first, is to just like look it up, just check out the Bard class and see what you think of it. But I think it's a lot closer to what it used to be. So thank you for the question, Stacy. I hope that gives you somewhat of an answer. Build a bard. Yeah, no doubt. Let's keep moving. We got another one. This next one is from Ray. And Ray asks, when creating a new character, do you like to name them first and then build out the stats and backstory? Or do you build the character first and name it after building? Personally, I prefer the former because I think the name can help give guidance in building the rest. Doing it the other way makes it feel like an afterthought. What do you think? What's in a name? Well, thank you, Ray. I have never thought of this until it was asked. And I don't know if I know the answer. If I thought about it critically and was pressed, I probably almost always name the character before I build it. So I do tend to go, well, it's tough because I also feel like I kind of have an idea of what I want the character to be before I name it. So while I don't build it out before I name it, I definitely have a clue where I'm going. And so I guess in that vein, I use the direction of where I'm going to guide the name, and then let the name fill out the rest. Right? Like so, and I bring him up all the time, but he's one of my favorite and best characters, Studebaker Peppercorn. I knew that Studebaker Peppercorn was going to be a bard. Some form of a bard, right? Because he's a bardlock. I knew that before I built him and before I named him. And then his name, Studebaker Peppercorn, just, I don't know, the sound of it, the cadence, it just made me feel, from that, I created this whole family of turtles. And then building him as a character kind of came from his family. So I don't know. I guess that I don't name first in the strictest sense, because I do have an idea. Like, I wouldn't just say like, oh, I'm going to have a guy and I'm going to have a character and his name is going to be Lazlo Miraculous. And I wouldn't know what that, well, I don't know. That sounds like a cleric maybe. Yeah, I guess that I like to know what my role is going to be, and then I use that information to guide my naming of the character, and then use the name for building. So I guess I don't name first. I do name before I build, which was technically the question. So I do name the character before I build out the stats. But I definitely have an idea of where I'm going, whether it's going to be like, okay, this is going to be like a bruiser, fighter, melee, DPR, tank, or this is going to be ranged attack, this is going to be spell casting, this is going to be support. Because once I have that idea, I feel like that guides the name for me. So maybe there's more power in the name than I thought. Let's see what chat's saying. Name usually comes as I'm imagining the backstory and the direction you want the character to go. For example, Pally Smitey McSmiteface is clearly a Warlock Paladin. Chris says, name first. I like to come up with a character before the technical aspect. I want to use Peppercorn as your first game. Feel free, Ruby. There's free characters in that list from when I brought it up. Cannon Fodder is a good name used for your meat shield types. Nice. Yeah, definitely. I think that for me, I let the vibe guide the name. So it's like, what are we doing here? Is this spell casting? Is this melee fighting? And then let the name fill out the rest of it. So, cool. Well, that was a cool question. Thank you, Ray. I honestly had not ever thought of that until it was asked. So those are my favorite kind of questions, where it's like, when I got the email, I was like, whoa, I've never even thought of it. But now that I've been thinking about it, it's interesting. So thank you. All right, let's keep going. We got another question here. This third question is from Caden. And let's see. Caden asks, hey, Yazik, longtime fan. I'm playing D&D for the first time next weekend as a player. Nice. And I need some bardadvice. We'll do what we can. My character is a rogue, but my backstory makes her more of a trickster than a damage dealer. That said, I want to utilize creative combat tactics that don't center around weapons or spells. Could you in chat offer suggestions? Wish me luck and have a good one. Thank you, Caden. Let's start with chat for this, because I made some notes, but I'm interested to hear what chat has to say. So what are you thinking, chat? So we've got a rogue who's a trickster. I immediately think of like arcane tricksters from 3.5. That's actually a really, really... Hey, if you're playing 3.5, go arcane trickster. That's a real fun, different way to go about it. So let's take a look here. River says Inquisitor Rogue. Net is super fun and powerful for such things. Oh, Net. Yeah. Oh, that's such a cool, like... That's an underrated weapon. Bean says help action to give allies advantage. Also at level 3 Arcane Trickster. Oh, I guess Arcane Trickster is just like a subclass of Rogue now, isn't it? Not going to spell that book right. I don't know for, but it's understand the significance. Which book? Oh, a name from a book, Thorazar. Ah, cool. So... Or mastermind. Yeah, I think that if you don't want to be like... This is what I wrote down. If you don't want to... If you want your combat to... If you want to be more creative about your combat, I wrote down, always know your surroundings, because that's going to drive you as to what you can do. So... funny enough, I'm incredibly unobservant in real life, but I do this often in D&D if I'm a player. I will often ask for checks, particularly if they aren't prompted, particularly if they are perception. So like if you're entering a new area, the DM is going to give you what the DM gives you. But you never know if a thing's going to be there until you ask for it, and sometimes you can get something that you were hoping for, even though it was never really planned, depending on the DM. So in my experience, a lot of times, like, I'll say something like, oh yeah, is there anything that you could, is there anything like hanging from anything, like anything heavy? you know, because it might be a situation where the DM is just kind of like driving you through a narrative, and it's a situation where it's like, oh, you're going to be in combat, and so this is going to be like a thing, and you either want to avoid that entirely for RP purposes, or you want to make it like there's more fun going on. And this is one of the great things about Baldur's Gate 3, is that in playing it, when you get into combat, you have this kind of bird's eye view of everything that's going on, and so you can kind of see all of it at once. When you're playing D&D, that stuff's kind of in your mind's eye, and if you don't bring it up, it doesn't exist. So I'd say ask for perception checks, in particular if they aren't offered, and then try and use things and or people around you. Yeah, somebody's Avram says use terrain to your advantage. So and also River says you could go with something like a charlatan rogue with the actor feat, more about deception and insight than combat or casting spells. Yeah, no doubt. And that's a fun thing too that River and I discovered in our Bard run through Baldur's Gate 3, which we'll play that again soon. You don't have to fight a lot if you have dummy cha. And if you have stuff like, if you have like the spell Friends or anything that gives you, I mean, as a bard you've got, well, not as a bard, you're a rogue. But, you know, bards give bardic inspiration, clerics can give guidance, like, so I would say decide what you want to do when it comes to being out of combat, because I think that that can help lead you to what you do during combat. Like if you have a high cha, if you're like a high cha rogue, or even if cha's like your second, but you rely on it frequently enough, either to get yourself out of trouble or get other people into it, and then use the party around you to help facilitate that with bonuses. So also make that clear to the party, right? Because if the party assumes that you're the rogue, they assume that you're going to be doing stuff like sneak attack damage. You might not be interested in that. You might want to do something where you make the building collapse on the enemies so they're all dead and you don't have to fight them. So you end the fight before it even starts. So I think that not only from like an IRL standpoint, not only from an out-of-character standpoint, but also from an in-character standpoint, make that clear, establish that with the rest of the party, not only for their own knowledge, but also so that they can help you. Because if they're aware that you're more of a rogue that's going to talk them out of something, or, you know, start a fire in the town square to solve the problem, then that can guide them in their choices too. Light Breeze could wrestle some important missed documents, maybe. Yeah, and you can always go like the from a route of like political diplomacy or like espionage or something. Like it doesn't always have to be combat. That's one of the things too that's great with Baldur's Gate 3. I keep praising that game because it's just so good. But like to that end, when you approach an encounter or a potential combat in Baldur's Gate 3, there's like 17 different directions that it can go. A good portion of those not involving combat at all. So I guess on that note also just kind of lean into the RP of it all, because if you've got somebody that is like a fighter or a barbarian, they're probably really like mechanically focused when it comes to those kind of combat scenarios, whereas you would be more on the fringe of, you might even consider taking a level or two in Bard. When do they get inspiration? Immediately? It might be worth just one level in there, just to have that, not only for yourself, but others. I mean, if the BBEG doesn't know what you're doing, collapsing a building on them will be considered a sneak. Well, I guess that's true. Yeah, that's true. It's like an extra. Wouldn't that be hilarious? If you're like, okay, like 286 damage plus a d6. You once had a player who was a rogue that didn't hoard gold. They hoarded secrets. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and that's another thing too. You can kind of place it on its head as to what you do. Maybe you can go like a whole. Maybe you could do like a whole Batman thing where you don't kill and you just like use non-lethal damage and knock people unconscious and stuff. That could totally be a thing you could do. Bards do get inspiration at level 1. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what level rogue you are, so I don't know what you'd be giving up, but might be worth a dip. Not only for the inspiration, but Yeah, build it a rogue monk too. Knock them out, intergrapple them. Oh yeah, monk too. That's true. So I guess that, Caden, the answer is that there are lots of different ways that you can go about doing it, but I think that the most important thing is that you communicate with your DM and your party, both in and out of character, as to what the standards are. I mean, obviously, don't screw up the RP if it's like a situation where like you're all strangers and not supposed to know stuff, but I just think that if they're aware of that, like with me, people pretty much know what they're getting into when they play D&D with me. And if they don't, I make it clear. You know, like if you watch the We Play, the character Verena Shadowstep has a major drug problem. And that's established episode 1. I think it's the first thing I do. Because everybody is like, we open in the bar and everybody's coming in and everybody's going up to the bar to get a drink. And then I'm like, oh, well, my character is ripping off a rail in the bathroom. And so that kind of thing got established immediately. And so everyone in the party is like loose cannon. So they all can make informed decisions based on that, as opposed to them thinking that I'm a character that's got it together and then they get themselves in a situation where they have to rely on me and it doesn't go well for them. Expectations, you know, we have that conversation frequently. And yes, it is cool that you're playing for the first time. I'm glad to hear it. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you keep playing. Giggling, thinking about the last D6 actually killed the baby AG. Given the grimdark theme of my games, I always make sure to let my players know what they'll be facing before we start. Yeah, expectations. That's the key there. Expectations and communications. So thank you, Caden. Let's keep moving. We have... Technically, one of these isn't a question. It occurs to me. It's more of a suggestion, but I included it because it's great. So technically, we have 2 more questions, a suggestion, a follow-up, and chat. Just a little sit report, status update. Let's keep moving. The next question is from Mark. And Mark asks, will we ever see the return of Drunk Before Noon? The amount of story you guys were able to squeeze out of this classic act is nothing short of astonishing. I truly need more DBN lore to be explored. The DBN universe is just too good to leave behind. I was, and still am, captivated. Well, thank you, Mark. I'm glad that you enjoy that show. I really enjoy that show as well. So we will be bringing it back. My trouble, I guess, has been what it looks like when it does come back. Because, you know, YouTube has been wonky the last year or so anyway, with them throwing everything algorithmically into the shorts. And so I don't know if we do bring it back that it will look like it used to as on the channel. But I've been considering what a TikTok version of Drunk Before Noon would look like, and maybe in doing it that way, we could just have them also be posted on the channel as shorts. So I don't know exactly even what the rules are for the shorts on YouTube. Oh, you're welcome, Stacy. I'm glad that I hope you got something out of that. But I don't know what the like time limit is on the shorts, but yeah, if I can make it work, yes. I love that universe as well. It was really fun just because it's like, it's pretty much an excuse to be a cartoon, right? Like, I feel like we established pretty early on that there weren't really any rules, and then it just kind of got crazier and crazier to the point where it's just wildin'. And, oh, that's good to know. I know that we can go a while on TikTok now, so it's not so much a question of that, but I don't know if it would post on YouTube as a short if it was like 3 minutes. I don't know that for sure. I'll have to look into that. But I do want to bring it back. There was always a plan for it to return. It's just been a really long time since we've done it, and just got to get into it, I suppose. I can tell you for sure that it won't be very soon, only because Justin is out in Arizona, actually, for the next several weeks, doing a movie. So that'll be fun. By the way, just so everybody's aware, him doing that does not put him in any type of violation of the whole like SAG-AFTRA thing. Like, obviously, we are not picket line crossers. This is a project that is not even, I think, affected by that stuff because it's so independent. Just so that information's out there. So Justin's not a scab. He's just out making a movie in Arizona. So, and YouTube shorts are up to a minute. Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's not enough time unless I reimagine it as like a minute episode type thing and we just do more of them. And I did see that the writer's strike is over. I'm amazed that they were able to get all of those things that they got to the point where it seems like a red flag. I mean, the kind of terms that they were able to come to with like, we're not going to hire any AI writers aren't allowed to write anything, and there has to be a minimum number of and it's like, my question is like, why would they do that unless it was like, why would they do that forever? There's no way. There's got to be a thing on there that's like, yeah, this is for the next like 5 years. It also makes me wonder if like somebody came back to the powers that be and was like, hey, listen, AI is not completely there yet. We need another 8 months. And they were like, all right, well, we'll just tell them that it expires in 2026. Okay. Yeah. That makes more sense because they're probably going to need a couple of years to get all of the AI stuff up and running at 100% anyway, right? They're not going to be able to do that next week or even next year. Some places will. It'll start seeping out slowly. But yeah, dude, 2 or 3 years, they just won't need them anymore. So it's like, yeah, you could be happy for now, but just know 2026 is coming. So, what were we talking about? How did we we were talking about Drunk Before Noon. Oh yeah. So yeah, I want to bring it back. I love it. It's one of the more fun things for me to write, for me to act in, for me to edit. It's always fun, DBN, just because it's just so crazy. It's so insane. Just long enough for them to grease the right palms on AI copyright ownership, no doubt. Any new music coming out soon? Why, I'm glad you asked, Orderly Chaos. I indeed have a new album coming soon. Now, I don't have an official release date for it, but I will tell you, I would really like to get it out before Halloween. So, it's coming soon. I'm actually like in kind of the... I'd say that if you were to split the process of producing an album into 3 sections, I'm in the 3rd section. So that's good. I've laid down most of the lyrics and songs that I want to. There's only a handful that I haven't done anything for. And I think there's only like 2 more verses total that I have to write. And then a couple of more things to record. And then most everything else is just mixing and mastering. So Ride the Lightning on that album. Yeah, Organized Lightning is going to be fun. I'm excited. And I really should release a track listing. I was thinking about doing that tonight, but I didn't have time to get it together. I'll do it next week. How about that? We'll do a track listing release next week. Can you get the older ones still? So, not from what I understand, I don't think that they're available for physical copy, but I might look into doing something like that later down the road in the future. I don't know. Maybe after I release this one or another one, I'll do like a greatest hits or something and then make like a hard copy of it. These episodes go by in a minute and the time is relative to enjoy. It's literally the only show I tell my family to try not to distract me from. Well, I appreciate that, Duncan. I'm glad you enjoy it. Anthology albums, yeah, for sure. Well, I do want to make my acoustic record, and one of the songs on this Organized Lightning album is going to be what I consider the first song I ever wrote, and it's so what I want to do is I want to release it as more of like a full band version on this album, and then it will also be available in acoustic form on the acoustic album once that gets made. So yeah, just because I think that song would be a really good cap off to this new album. So And also just kind of like put people on notice and make them aware that there's like other kinds of music coming. So it's more than just the, my fourth album, the fourth Yazik album will not be rap. It will be acoustic. And then my plan is tentatively to make a fifth album. It'd be a fourth rap album called Ikigai, which is the Japanese concept of a purpose for waking up in the morning. So we need Evil Eye. Oh, yeah, I could do an acoustic version of that. That'd be cool. My favorite song I've made? Probably Follow. That's the one that I was referring to. It's the first one that I wrote. I think that it's probably, for me in my head, it's the best just because it's the simplest. And I don't know. I was like 14 or 15 when I wrote it, and I'm happy to report that like I still believe in a lot of it. Most of it, all of it. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to do it, because it's like, man, this is, I've had a relationship with that song for a really, really long time, more than half my life. So yeah, it's important to me. I want to put it out there. In a 90s ska band, that their first album was Greatest Hits. Nice. I was in a ska band in high school called Funkmaster Frank. And I was the guitarist / occasional baritone sax player. All right. Well, thank you for the question, Mark. DBN will be returning. I can't promise you when or in what format, but yes, it will make a comeback at some point. All right. So this next question, that's not a question, but a suggestion, and one that I thought was good and we should discuss on this podcast, is from Wolf. And Wolf writes, "Hi, Chaz. I've been enjoying the podcast. It's given me a few ideas to use here and there for an online RP group that I run. Nice. With that said, I really have a suggestion rather than a question. For DMs of the podcast, listen up, DMs. My group's forever DM got into the habit of asking us the goods and bads of the session as a means to keep open dialogue between him and the players, as well as what he could improve upon for the story or descriptions. This is something that I tend to do in my own games, so if you're ever curious about feedback of the campaign you've been running, this would be a good way to go about it. Hope you and everyone is doing well. I've started listening to the podcast overnight at work, and it's been a fun way to pass 8 hours. Keep up the good work. Love the D&D content and your music as well." Well, thank you for the question, Wolf. Yikes, if you're listening to me for 8 hours, then that's only going to last you a couple of days. But I'm glad that you're listening and that you enjoy the pod. So I think that that's a great idea. And it comes back to the thing that we always bring up on here, expectations and communications. If you have a designated time that's kind of cut out for that, that's excellent, because I am a person who forgets things always. I don't remember anything, okay? And so what I mean is like, I'm the type of person that would experience something like in the middle of a session, right? And feel a certain type of way about it, but wouldn't likely say something about it right then because, you don't want to slow things down. You don't want to be a pain. So kind of make a mental note of myself like, oh, I'll bring it up to the DM later. And inevitably, I wouldn't bring it up because I would forget. We would get to the end of the session. I would have forgotten by that point, and then I just would have kind of gone about my business. But if you have a designated section of the session that's specific for this, then that would be a thing that for me, now I'm a bad example because I was just forgetting in my example, but if you have that, you can kind of, in that case, I would have like made myself a little note, knowing that at the end of the session, it would have been like, hey, were there any issues? And it would have been the perfect time for me to be like, oh yeah, here's this thing. So I think that that's important for the DM and the players and for everybody. So while I don't think it's completely like necessary, I do encourage that kind of thing. Whether you do it before or after the session, after is probably better, but maybe both. Maybe you just have like a little minutes meeting at the beginning and the end of the session, just to kind of get a feel for where everybody's at, how everybody's feeling, like what's going on. If you didn't like something, or if you did like something and you want more of something, you would hope that this could just be accomplished in general discourse, but depending on the size of your party, some people are more shy than others. Some people are, I'm the type of person that will like put up with something for a while if I don't like it. But if there was a designated space of time where it was like any issues, I would definitely bring it up. So I think that's a great thing. Let's see what chat's saying. I try to do the same in my sessions too. It keeps me on my toes and it keeps my players engaged. Welcome feedback from my players. With the advent of Discord, it's so much easier to communicate in between sessions. Oh yeah, good call. That's a good point too. It doesn't have to be in the session itself. Maybe you've got a Discord open or a text chain that could be designated for that. That's a good way to do that. When I was running my Sunday night Dragonlance game on Monday night, I hit up Facebook chat for a recap/loot list that usually leads into a discussion for the week. Okay. There's always the fear as a player that your ideas will be more diabolical than what the DM has planned. Yeah, that's a good point. I kind of always know that they will be. But hello, Jay Trocious. Welcome. Better late than never. Welcome to the party. Yeah, I do a little bit of feedback gathering, but I could lift my game. But my only player is 7 and has little experience with roleplay game nuances. Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure it depends on the personality of the group as well. Yeah, for sure. So the dynamic of what's going on matters. So yeah, everybody's different, you know. There's some stuff that like you wouldn't even bother you at all. You wouldn't even think of, and then there's some stuff that same thing might be like PTSD for somebody, or like even simply that they just don't like it. Like, so I think it's important to keep that in mind. And the more you talk, the more you open those kind of open conversations and forums, then the better, because a lot of that stuff can get resolved before it comes out in role play or in the session. I've had players recap the last session and their plans for the coming one is an opportunity for players to gain a bonus, and also lets me know what had impact and what didn't. Oh yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for the donation, Jeff. I don't game, but I do carry the nerd gene. Love watching your content, and I've even gotten wifey hooked on the editions. You're appreciated. Well, thank you very much, Jeff. That's very much appreciated as well. I'm happy to hear it. And yeah, that's really cool. I'm glad that you enjoy them. We'll keep making them. Depends if there's an issue. It usually gets brought to my attention. I've already had a one-on-one with someone about said topic. If it has to do with the group, then I bring it up with the group. No problem, Flatey. Thank you for joining. Helps that my current group of players are masochists who want to be psychologically tortured. Yeah, that goes a long way. Hey, if you're playing something like Cthulhu, you probably aren't talking, you're probably not having like sessions about how to make it more fun or easy, but just, yeah, keep an open dialogue, folks. That's how you do it. All right, we got one more question. Then we got to follow up and we'll have some chat. Thanks for the suggestion, Wolf. DMs, take heed. And this last question this evening is from May. It's gonna be May. May asks, you've said one of your Baldur's Gate 3 playthroughs, you're playing a fighter, but you also said you were going to respec. I'm always respecing. I'm debated. Well, that's not proper English. It's certainly not how it was sent to me. I've debated dipping my fighter into a level or two or rogue and was curious. Are you a full fighter? And if so, which subclass? Thanks. Well, thank you for the question, May. I am indeed a full fighter after much respecking. And let me just say this about multiclassing. Unless there is like a very specific thing that you want to do that requires the combination of those things, it's very much chasing your tail, I think. Specifically with Baldur's Gate 3, I feel like I've spent so much time trying to come up with like this perfect combination of levels. And the reality is you can accomplish much of what you want to accomplish within your own class, depending on which route you go. So to your point about subclass, I wanted a fighter. Initially, I just really was like a fighter that was like, whatever, let's go in and kill stuff. But like as we got into the game, you know, so we're a party of 4 in the one that I'm the Cowboy Owl. I'm the Dragonborn fighter. Originally, it was like, well, I'm going to just go in there with a sword and just, you know, smash stuff, because that's That's how I always ran fighters in 3.5. And as I started playing, it occurred to me that also in the group beyond Justin the Sorcerer is my buddy Ryan, who is a paladin, and my buddy Cody, who is a barbarian, more on the barbarian. So it's, melee, that's to say, is kind of covered. Almost to the point where, like, my being up in the fray was kind of more of a hindrance to things than a help. So I decided that I wanted to go more ranger. And I was looking into all the different kind of combinations that I could use for, ranged combat, what kind of feats that you could take to, obviously there's like the crossbow expert feat and the, I think it's like a 2-weapon fighting feat that allows you to add your bonus to your second attack. But I felt like I chased stuff for a long time going like, all right, well, maybe I should just go fighter rogue, or like fighter rogue, fighter rogue ranger, fighter rogue barbarian. And I am happiest now as just like a straight up level 8 Eldritch Knight fighter. And I went Eldritch Knight because it gives me, I think, more options. I'm not a huge fan of the Battle Master, to be honest. Now, maybe it's because I don't pick the right things. I will say Riposte is ridiculous. It's pretty awesome to have that just in general, because it's like if you miss, then you just get an attack on them. But beyond that, like, my experience with the Battle Master subclass, at least in Baldur's Gate 3, was not the greatest. Like, whatever that precision attack, I don't think I've ever hit when using the precision attack. And I'm not exaggerating. And I've used it a lot of times. Feinting, yeah. Some of them are better than others. That's the thing, too. Like, goading attack, it depends on what you're trying to do, right? Like, and with Eldritch Knight, you get access to spells, which I liked because I'm going ranged. So even if I'm, I can be sort of a hybrid there with the spell casting. I mean, that's the point of the Eldritch Knight. And then there's what's the other one? The Champion. And it just like ups your crit chances, right? Just like boosts your crit range, and not even all that much. So let's see what multiclassing in BG3 is super strong. 5 Thief, 5 Gloomstalker, 2 Fighter. The other thing I think that's important to point out is like what level you are. Because obviously the more levels you have, the more easy you'll be able to take advantage of multiclassing. But if you're like level 8 or lower, it's hard to go more than 2 for multiclassing. Mostly it depends on what you want to do. He's just picking the wrong Battlemaster attacks. Is that what it is? Battlemaster's OP? Man, I guess I'm just picking the wrong things. Well, somebody tell me which ones to pick. Well, I'm not going to pick it now. I'm an Eldritch Knight. That's fine. I'll respec. I respec all the time. My original fighter build, when I was just going through it in the base class, like just sticking with fighter, was the Battlemaster. But precise attack just never worked. And then Riposte was nice, but I don't remember I think that the other one I had was like the thing where you can make somebody else attack, which I could never get that to even work. So it's probably just a matter of using the wrong things. Let me know. Help a bard out. Let me know which ones I'm supposed to take, which ones are worth it. Thief is a rogue subclass. Can use an item of cunning action bonus instead of an action. Yeah, and that's a thing too. Like, when I originally was building out, I was thinking like, well, if I'm level 8, maybe I do like 5 fighter and 3 rogue, because that subclass of rogue can get you that bonus action. It's fun listening to this, pretending you understand what's going on. Oh yeah, we're speaking English for sure. EK is great just for shield reaction and weapon cantrips. Oh yeah. I like Eldritch Knight too, as your few weapons specific to Eldritch Knight, and you have access to heavy armor plus a shield spell. Yeah, I've really liked it. I feel like Eldritch Knight is like a really clean subclass because it accomplishes exactly what you want it to, which is that you are a fighter that can cast a few spells. It's that simple. And so I really like Eldritch Knight, and that's what I would recommend. But if you're looking to if you're looking to multi-class, it looks like chat, and then also things I've seen is rogue fighter or ranger fighter. I think that ranger and rogue are probably some of your better options for multi-classing. Maybe barbarian, but again, it depends on what you're doing. Are you somebody that's like in the fray fighting? Are you somebody that's off ranged attack? All my friends have been talking about BG3, about to go rogue and got me a copy. Yeah, you really should. It's really fun. It is really fun. And I hope that they add more to it. I haven't gotten an opportunity to watch that. Isn't there like a video of them playing the Baldur's Gate 3 like voice actors playing D&D IRL? I'm going to check that out too. You could also say screw it and go pure druid and do the owl bear from the top rope. That's true too. Yeah, I've got my druid run's fun. As I've gotten I've gotten higher level with the druid. It's like, oh, this is fun. I really like druids. All right, so we have a follow-up, and then we'll do a little chat. The follow-up this week is from Razberry, who a couple of weeks ago asked about a one-on-one tournament style thing that he was doing as a bard in his party. So let's check it out. Razberry says, my first round I was against another bard, and the DM agreed we could have a battle of the bards, where I had to sing to the actual party to get advantage on my performance rolls. My second round I was against a level 15 ranger fighter. I lost, but I made the DM work for it. I placed 5th out of 16. We have 8 people in our party. So, that makes me happy to hear that there are 8 people in the party, because I remember when we got this question, I was thinking like, well, what is it that's going on? What is it that you're doing? And it's very evident that you're doing a support bard if you're in a party of 8. I'm happy to hear that it went the way that you wanted it to. I think that's quite bold of you to say that you made the DM work for it with a level 15, because was it? Let's go. Hold on. I have the actual question. Let me pull it up. It's from episode 39. Razberry. Yeah, you're level 8. You're level 8 bard. And the level 15 fighter ranger had to work for it? Well, it's good to hear that you placed 5th. I imagine that wasn't that easy to do. But very cool that the DM allowed you to do the whole Battle of the Bards thing. That's exactly the kind of thing that I was thinking when you mentioned that, you didn't really want to show off too much or do too much damage or win the thing. You just kind of wanted to just wanted to place 5th. So glad to hear you did it. Even a support character can be a threat when using tactics and being clever. That's true. It's very true. And hey, if you're the bard, then you're relying on your performance checks. It's pretty good. Pretty good. The Magic the Fighter. High linguistic skill. I don't know about that. Speaks in detail and intricate mechanics, many of which I don't know. Hey, if it makes you feel better, I don't always know what I'm talking about either. Most of the time, actually. I just kind of keep talking. But I mean, I guess that I kind of understand D&D, at least at the point. I almost enjoy Spore Druid more than Necro Wizard in BG3. Really, River? That amazes me. Spore Druid more than Necro Wizard. Okay. I don't know. I'll have to see. I have to see the Spore Druid stuff, definitely. So, we're officially in chat. Your IRL feed is called Lack of Brevity. Yeah, same. Oh, man, if I had a tattoo, it'd be that. So what are we talking about in chat? Obviously, I mentioned it at the top of the podcast. I don't know how many people in here care about basketball, if at any, but I'd still think it's insane that Damian Lillard went to the Milwaukee Bucks and the Milwaukee Bucks were able to retain Chris Middleton. I don't understand what happened. I thought that Dame was going to Miami. I think a lot of people did. At least that's what it looked like. And then now he's going to Milwaukee. Also breaking news this afternoon, there's been a suspect arrested in connection with the murder of Tupac Shakur. And that's going to get really interesting really fast, because that guy is a gang member. And he was also, or I shouldn't say that he is, right? He at least was a former gang member. And he was only one person that was in the car, right? So there was probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 people in the car. So, and not all of those people might still be around. They might not be willing to talk, but it's going to get interesting fast. We need to follow the money, because they didn't just do this. It was probably requested. You don't even like rap, but you enjoy my flows and verses. Well, thank you. I'm glad. 20 years ago. It was more than 20 years ago. It was 1996. So almost 30. Gee whiz. 27? Crazy. Oh, yes. Good things of the week. Yeah, let's talk about that. What's going on with good things for the week? My good thing for the week is that, and I guess that I can go ahead and remind everybody here, if you're able, I'm getting very close to my goal for getting all of the stuff taken care of with the bills. Obviously I wouldn't expect anything from anybody. It's tough. Times are tough. Everybody's hurting. But if you are in a position where you're willing and able to donate something, every little bit helps. Please consider checking that out. So that's probably been my good thing for the week, honestly, is that the community has been so great in coming through and helping. I've been very happy to see that. Going to a cottage near where Ron and you met for your 30th wedding anniversary. Whoa. Well, happy anniversary, Ron and Ruby. That's awesome. 30 years. Good for y'all. He's probably going to die in prison thinking quite about Suge Knight's involvement. Well, hey, Suge Knight's already in federal prison, right? Last I checked. That guy's got enough problems. I mean, I think we all know, but, have them help my sis and brother-in-law clean out their last apartment as they become homeowners. Wow, good for them. That's awesome. In this economy... Good for them. Been playing Final Fantasy IV on Steam with your 7-year-old. He's enjoying it. Heck yeah, that's awesome. Am I able to rap on the fly? No, not really. I mean, I can do verses and stuff. I don't freestyle. I have a promotion coming up soon, and I desperately need the hours. And the wife is awesome, but that goes without saying. Good. Good. Things for the week Tuesday, I got word that I passed my comp exams for my master's degree. So now I'm truly an anthropologist. Bad thing for the week, I'm going to get furloughed. Oh, man. Yeah, sorry to hear that, Pirate. Well, hey, that's awesome, man. That's so cool. An anthropologist. That's so cool. And then to immediately land in a situation where you're going to be furloughed. Gosh, man, I hope that doesn't happen, but it looks like it's going to. And listen, if it does, I hope it doesn't last long. That sucks. Best thing about the week has been the cooler weather. Fall is nice. Yeah, that's definitely true. I've really enjoyed that as well. These last couple of, well, really it's only been the last week or so, but it's nice that it's not 100 degrees and it's just like 75. Amazing they can still track leads on it after so long. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Sometimes people just like have a they have a conscience, maybe come forward. Maybe somebody finds a document that was like behind a file cabinet or something. Who knows? It could be any number of reasons. I will say that I can't imagine that in 1996 there was a tremendous amount of stuff like kept in there. Sunday's the 1st of October. Start your annual reading of Roger Zielanzi's A Night in the Lonesome October. Written as a diary, 1 chapter per night with the climax on Halloween. Yeah, I'm going to check that out myself. And since you brought it up, I'm interested. In Texas, cooler weather tends to bring water with it. Oh, yeah. Speaking of water, geez, I hope everybody in New York, if anybody's listening, is okay. They had this crazy flash flood today. It's like flooded the airport and the subways and stuff. It's not built for that city. First time watching bardadvice. I love the show channel. I'm glad I caught this episode. Thank you for breaking down basic D&D mechanics into a funny explanation that's easy to understand. No problem, Lark. And welcome. I'm glad that you were able to make it for alive. Choose to believe it was Tupac's ghost. An old lady medium that solved the crime. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Oh, man, that was one of the funniest things that they ever did on South Park, was when they made the Tupac thing. And he was, like, alive. So funny. Enjoy the cooler weather. Orlando has 2 seasons, hot and 2 days of tolerable. Well, hey, I'm in Jacksonville, so I feel you. It's a little bit cooler, but not much. Just got your Addams Family pinball machine. That your wife met playing back in 1993. That's a really cool pinball machine. All the stories from a familial point of view. Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. I need to write it down. I'm going to write it down while I'm looking at it. I need a pen. Zillan Plus store. One of our American suppliers might have illegally sent some shurikens. Whoa. Oh no, the stream died. Really, at the very end? That's sad. I think it just kind of like bugged out for a second. Yeah, I just froze. I'm gonna do it. Man, that would be crazy. Imagine if that happened. If I was just like, if somebody asked me a question and I was like, well, so what do you think about this? And I was just like, I wonder how long that would go on before there was like a real concern, before people would be like, okay, it's been, well, I don't know. I guess we got that answer in real time when it happened to that guy, right? I couldn't believe how long they let him stand there. I'm the type of dude where like, hey, if you're talking to me and you just, like, if you're in the middle of talking or like I've prompted you to say something and you just stare at me, it's like 6 or 7 seconds before I'm like, you okay? And I feel like they just let that guy sit there for like 40 seconds before somebody was like, are you all right? It seems so strange. Listen, just know, like if we're ever in a conversation and somebody stops talking, there shouldn't be more than a 10-second gap before somebody is like, excuse me, what's going on? What's the problem? Sopranos ending, bardadvice style. Yeah, I like that. Oh, yes. And Diane Feinstein passed away today at 90, which, you know, rest in peace. But also, what are you doing being 90? We gotta figure something out with that, you know? 90 is just too much. Personally, I think anything over like 70, anything over retirement age, if you can retire from the private sector, don't be in the government. How about that? Can we all agree on that? No, probably not. 2 months to figure out what a false Hydra question. That's true. I did have to take some time on that. Well, to be honest, I had to like understand what it was. And then once I was able to do that, I was able to like actually think about what my answer would be. So nice, all these new people to D&D. That's excellent. I felt that not only was it fun, but could sometimes be useful. Interesting crossover that helps one understand perspective a little. Well, all right, team. We're here again at the end. I can't believe it. It went by quick. It always goes by quick. Next week is going to be episode 42 already. And we're like looking down the barrel of October. Have you tried Dungeons and Delvers? Haven't had a chance to play it, but I feel they have a unique approach to bards and sorcerers, in my opinion. Thank you very much for the generous donation and the question there. I have not, but I might look into it. If you could live to be 200, you could drop more beats and join the dark side. That's true. Hey, listen, I'm not ruling out the fact that I might be able to plug into a server or, you know, cryogenically freeze myself. You know? You know where your towel is. Don't forget your towel. Yeah. Well, yes, indeed, don't panic. In fact, good note, Bean. That'll be the episode title for next week. We're done. We're already done. We're here at the end. So I'd just like to say goodbye to everyone. Thank everyone again. So a reminder at the end, send all your questions, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques, all of those to bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice, if that helps you remember. You can get merchandise at manshorts.com. And if you want to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzick. The Organized Lightning album is coming out soon. While I don't have a definitive date, it will be soon. I will be back next week, same Bard time, same Bard channel, the Man Shorts YouTube channel at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The audio for this podcast will be made available tomorrow at 12 p.m. noon Eastern Standard Time. I hope that everybody has a fantastic weekend.